if we're working with a manufacturing engineer or somebody that's solving problems on a factory floor, there's four things that they're doing, and all of them are difficult. The first was to scout new technology. And technology is changing so fast right now that itself is very difficult. And then the second was, if you did find current state of the art, is to take the right set of solutions and down select them to evaluate. And that's not easy either. And then once you choose somebody and you're comfortable with them, you generally still going to do a proof of concept on their factory floor. And that's just another hurdle. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with a proof of concept. And if you make it past all three of those stages, then you've got to integrate the new solution and scale up. And that's hard too.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Frontline Advantage. Today we have on Scott Phillips. Scott and I met when we were actually introduced to the Industry 4.0 Accelerator, which connects leading Michigan-based manufacturers with startups that are able to provide them solutions of value. In fact, Scott and his team were instrumental in connecting us with one of our clients when we were actually initially building Teamforce, and we've had a great success story with them and are continuing to grow our business. Scott has moved on from his role at the Industry 4.0 Accelerator and is doing some exciting things for manufacturers. I wanted to bring him on our show to talk a little bit about what he's doing. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Scott.
Great. Thanks, Vivek. Great to be here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Scott, can you briefly tell us a little bit about your background, what led you to kind of the Industry 4.0 Accelerator and what you're doing now?
Yeah, so most of my corporate career was with Whirlpool Corporation. I spent about 16 years there in manufacturing and other roles. And then after that, worked for Therma-Tru Doors and a few other companies, and then basically began consulting with different federal agencies, state agencies, all around helping manufacturers become more efficient in different ways. The program you just mentioned, the Industry 4.0 Accelerator, was a pretty creative program started by the state of Michigan, funded by the state of Michigan. And me and a few others spent somewhere around 3 or 4 years coaching and training manufacturers of all different sizes about advanced technology. And the reason we were doing that is the state of Michigan had two goals with this program. One was they wanted to make sure that all Michigan manufacturers, big, small, medium, any industry, were globally competitive, that they were aware of and knew how to adopt the latest technologies. And then the second goal we had was when we found a very creative solution provider like Teamforce or somebody that was in California or Israel or wherever, get them to Michigan. From an economic development. So Michigan also wants the smartest startups and, to advanced technology companies. So we had a twofold goal. And so we spent most of our time talking with manufacturers about what their problem statements were. But then we spent a lot of time vetting solutions from around the world on the phone and demos and in person. And really, we were just matchmakers. When we saw somebody that could help somebody else, our job was we didn't take any financial position or fees or anything. We were all paid for by state funds. So we learned a lot about the problems that manufacturers go through to find new solutions. And now I'm working on that in a new role.
That sounds great. And let's talk about that in a moment. For entrepreneurs today, is there still an opportunity to look at the Industry 4.0 Accelerator?
Yeah, it is. It still lives on. Anybody that wants to contact me as a result of this or something, I can get them in touch with the Accelerator. It's scaled back a little bit due to state funding, but it still exists and they still do good things. Yes. So the answer to your question is yes.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on now.
Yeah, so one of the things we learned in the last 3 or 4 years was, especially if you think of the clients we had, the manufacturers, if we're working with a manufacturing engineer or a process engineer or, somebody that's solving problems on a factory floor, what we saw was they deal with at least 4 issues that they, not all their time is spent looking for new solutions. They're also just trying to keep lines running and doing other things. But if it is in their responsibility to look for new technology, there's 4 things that they're doing, and all of them are difficult. The first was to scout new technology, to actually see it and know what current state of the art is. And technology is changing so fast right now that itself is very difficult. And then the second was, if you did find current state of the art, is to take the right set of solutions and down select them to evaluate. And that's not easy either. Knowing which of those, from that big funnel, which one of those you should look at a little deeper and how you should look at them. And then once you choose somebody and you're comfortable with them, you generally still going to do a proof of concept on their factory floor. And that's just another hurdle. There's a lot of things, even if that seems like a good fit, there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a proof of concept. And if you make it past all three of those stages, then you've got to integrate the new solution and scale up. And that's hard too. So even if you have a very successful proof of concept, usually to get the ROI that was promised on the project, you've got to scale it beyond whatever section you're working with. So we learned a lot about all four of those problems. And what I'm trying to do now is take all the ways that we manually coached people and automate them into some software.
It sounds so simplistic and helpful in that you've broken it down into the exact problematic areas. And even from a startup's point of view, one of the biggest challenges is even it being taken seriously to have a seat at the table. So there's this big trust gap by not having a brand and having credibility. And what things like Industry 4.0 have done and what you're providing is actually, it sounds like a more level playing field where you're providing objective analysis on what exists in the market. Now, of course, those solution providers like Teamforce have to still go execute on the POC and the broader rollout, but you're enabling more of an access opportunity for them to get in front of the right manufacturers and for those manufacturers to maybe see things more clearly. It's leveling the playing field and getting people more of what they need in a way. Is that right?
It is. And, making sure that a manufacturer is not just falling back on their old methods of using existing vendors or vendors to recommend other vendors, or, they just have to make sure that their net is spread wider than in the past because technology has changed. And why invest so much time on those last three steps if you're not starting with the right population to look at the beginning? So typically they don't spend enough time or tools at that top level, to really see what state of the art is and how to down select. And if you don't do that, you're spending way too much time on your POC and your upgrade. But to answer your question, I think when we come along and say, hey, Ford or ABC Manufacturing, here's 10 other solutions that you probably didn't know about. I think it's credible when it comes from us because we vet them. This isn't like, some company that just called them up. We've been on the phone with them. We've demoed them. We've screened them. So it's kind of like a good housekeeping seal if we made some recommendations.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So how does the model work in terms of manufacturers that want to get involved and learn more about solutions that are out there? What about solution providers? What is it on a mobile? Is it on a desktop? Is it software? Is it business model associated? Tell us more of the details.
Yeah, well, the program as it was that when I was involved with it was really limited to Michigan. And so if you were a Michigan manufacturer, you could take advantage of our expertise or our advice, for free. And we would be out in the field working, seeing people at trade shows and things like that. And the same was true with any solution provider. You can get on the I4O website, get vetted. I will say this, that different manufacturers had different appetites for the market maturity of a startup. And so that was our job to know that, hey, we're working with this manufacturer. They want to make sure that anybody we put in front of them has reference customers, been in business at least 3 years, whatever that criteria was, that was our job to know the maturity level they look at. Now, going forward, what I'm building is a system called i4IQ that, again, any software or any solution provider in this advanced technology space can join it. In fact, I'm not even waiting for you to join it. I've already got your profile because we're scraping a lot of information. We've got about 1,000 or so solution providers. And what we'll be doing is putting their information in front of manufacturers, and then we'll be engaging with the solution provider to let them know, how they compare to others, who's interested in them, and then let them choose to own their own portal and their profile if they'd like to.
If people are going to be on the platform, companies are going to be on the platform, they have a chance to edit their profile. Is there kind of an opportunity to advertise or an opportunity to ensure you get in front of more manufacturers? What are kind of the economic opportunities, or can manufacturers get consulting advice from you? How are you sort of thinking about that, if you want to share anything about the business model side?
Yeah, I don't know what, I haven't thought about advertising yet. I want to make sure that we are truly viewed as an unbiased, trusted, advisor by the manufacturing clients. So, but one thing we'll be doing is encouraging every new solution provider to upload data for us so we can, what we typically do is we're very evidence-based. So where matching gets clogged today is all the jargon between a manufacturer not being able to describe their problem very well and all the technical or marketing jargon that a new solution provider puts on their website. And so our job with this new tool is to sift through that. And what we do is all sorts of semantic techniques to really understand what your company does. And so what we do is we encourage you to upload anything that has evidence of claims, either with referenceable customers, and we scrape that and we basically semantically vectorize it. And then we look for manufacturers with problems that you can relate to. So we break down all the traditional categories of solution and just go right through that and try to get a best fit, right, between what you really do. So at any given startup company that'll be on this system, we will know a lot about them.
Yeah, and I think as a startup, this is a big deal because as someone who spends a lot of time in these tools every day utilizing ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, I will test and sort of see how are we perceived.
Yeah.
And what these tools often will do is they'll go scrape public information about us, our website, and they'll form an opinion. And unless they have memory enabled and I'm talking to it consistently and providing updates about the ground level, which you and I know, Scott, we're under an NDA from our Industry 4.0. We talk to you about details that we would never put on our website.
Yeah.
But they provide you with comfort and confidence that, okay, there's evidence of what these claims might be. I think that's super important for startups to be able to provide and for you to validate, because startups just can't have the same marketing maturity budget that larger vendors have to be able to make claims. Or maybe startups make, grandiose claims, but you still have to validate them behind the curtain and say, wait a minute, what are those claims? You'd mentioned the i4IQ website. For those of you who follow us on Frontline Advantage and know about Team Force AI, we have it right on our website. You go under Human Intelligence, and you can click right underneath there, and it says i4IQ. That takes you right to the website, and hopefully you find that as a resource for other things beyond what you might be thinking about with us. And then in terms of how it's going to actually work, Scott, so it's like a portal. It's a little bit of matchmaking. There's the ability to kind of, I think some of the things you've shown me before, view data in a really interesting way of a market landscape matrix. Is it going to be primarily on the computer? Is it a mobile app? Are there going to be things where people need to access it regularly? Are you going to be pushing out reminders? How do you sort of envision that?
So initially, it'll be a desktop application. It'll probably become mobile at some point. And I'll tell you what it's not. It's not just an enhanced chatbot. Let me say that. So what I mean by that is when a manufacturing client onboards into this program, they will set up a user context profile about them. They will also set up a use case problem statement. And they can have many of those. But we will prompt them and walk them to such that they describe that problem statement granular enough that we know who to match and put them in front of. And on the other side of the fence in the solution provider portal, even if you are a startup without a lot of marketing material, we will prompt you on what type of evidence and claims to give us. We're forever looking for action, object, and outcome, said in many different ways in your videos, in your product. We are just constantly parsing semantically the different things that you really do with your solution. And so we're kind of using a different technique to match problems with solution providers.
Fantastic. And are there competitors who are trying to do something like this already, or what sort of drove you to fill the gap in the market around this?
Yeah, well, there certainly are a lot of software solutions on site. Anything from PitchBook and traditional startup portals to a lot of software evaluation sites where users rate software. I mean, certainly there's trade shows you can go to, but what I'm trying to do is come at it from a different way. Not a lot of manufacturing engineers have the budget or time to go to all the trade shows they should be going to. I can basically parse those websites and those exhibitors and tell them the 10 companies they should see if they go to that show. And if they don't go to that show, I will still put you together. And so, there is a lot of stuff out there. I would say most of what's out there, though, is trying to tell you who plays in what categories. So if you've ever seen these little boxes that people put up on the webs where there's like 5 categories and 1,000 icons scattered across 5 boxes, that's not very useful. And so I'm kind of breaking through that traditional categorization.
And you wouldn't call yourself either like an analyst firm, so like take LNS Research, which is really prominent manufacturing, Ryan Kaline, who's gone there. How would that be sort of different from what you provide?
I would say this is a piece of market intelligence software. So if you've ever used patent search software like Snapchat or anything like that, very similar, right? It's more of a market intelligence and decision support system. It's not a chat and it's not a consulting firm.
Fantastic. Is there anything that we haven't asked you about that you want to share with the audience today?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to share what I've been doing and what I'm going to do. And, if anybody in your audience would like to be a beta tester, I would love to have a lot of people playing with this in about 3 weeks. So happy to have anybody that would just like to play with the new solution.
That's fantastic timing. We're doing this. This is going to be released in February 2026. So 3 weeks from now, put a great timeline for people to be able to try this. And again, if they want to reach you, what's the best contact way to reach you? And is it an email address? Is it going to i4IQ? What would you like them to do to contact you directly, Scott?
Yeah, they can contact me at sphillips at i4iq.org now, .org.
Yeah, SPHILLIPS. Correct. At I4, the number 4, IQ.org.
Yeah, send me an email, and if you want to know more about the new program or would like to be a tester, that would be great.
And we'll put it in the description as well, so you can actually see it written out and be able to get in touch with Scott. And Scott, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being a believer in me and Team Force over the years. I've really valued and appreciated continuing our relationship and dialogue, and super excited for your launch and hope we can find some more folks out there that could benefit from it.